Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome back to MusicWise. We've had coming up now almost a year of doing this, and over the course of these months, we've been so lucky to have so many of my friends, musical colleagues join us. But it's always been a wish of mine to bring our next guest on, because it's been a while since we've worked together and spent time with each other. But whenever we do, it's one of those instances where we just sort of start off where we left off. And so be prepared for lots of laughter, lots of jokes, lots of amazing stories, and lots of insight about what it means to be an artist, what it means to be a musician, what it means to be a human being. So welcome to MusicWise, my friend, my colleague, Jeff Nelsen. Hey, Jeff.
Hey, you're talking about me?
So, can you imagine? I mean, I'm the Venmo went through. It was, you
left a few words out. Handsome.
Jeff, how are you doing? It's been such a while. It really, truly has been since we've connected and right. Talked to one another, talked with one another. You tell us where you're joining us from.
I'm in Santa Barbara, actually, California, and I'm here with my wife and my two boys, 10 and 5-year-old boys, and we're at her mother's place, and I'm dealing with some health things with her mom. So we've been here for months and months. And this is my bedroom, her brother's bedroom. And yeah, been working out of here and enjoying the warmth, which is kind of weird for a Canadian to be in this kind of climate.
Santa Barbara isn't a bad place to be during any time of the year. But you are normally, you currently hold the position of professor of horn at Indiana University in Bloomington, one of the schools where I once attended. Of course, these days, all of us can basically do, give or take. I can't really conduct an orchestra, and you can't play with your colleagues in person, but we can try our best to teach. And I guess you've been teaching and leading your master classes, et cetera, over the course of these months from Santa Barbara. Tell us a little bit about your position at Indiana as it is today.
It's the title is Professor of Music - Horn, which means I'm a horn professor of music, and I do private lessons. We have up to 18 students in my studio. We have over 40 hornists total at IU because we have 5 orchestras and an amazing wind ensemble and 3 bands and new music ensemble and a Baroque orchestra and I think 4 big bands. And anyway, it's a big place. And I didn't really know about it all that much growing up in Canada. So it's a really exciting place to be. And we're just trying to keep up with the times, keep ahead of the times as much as possible, doing entrepreneurship things. I teach horn. I teach masterclass to my students for performance and music education for them to be educators as well. And when the pandemic started, I have a partner who I've been working with, and we made an online course since the end of that semester in April. So for March and April, we worked really, really hard on an online system for the students where they can play for each other and then they each build a video that we had a watch party at the end and gave awards. And so now that's become a public course in the Fearless Performance arena of mental game and training, and it's called Training in Thirds. The majority of the summer was spent on that course. Yeah, my partner Katie Webb and I just rolled it out, and it's been a big learning curve.
I mean, we've talked about this time and time again, that this has been, of course, this pandemic has been a sea change for all of us, but there has been so many opportunities for us to explore things, to create things maybe we had in the back of our minds that we never quite had time to do to the fullest extent, or to utilize technology in the way that we've always wanted to, but again, never had the time. And I know that we'll get into this, but I know that you've had you have such a commitment to the things around playing an instrument, being a musician, being an artist, being a citizen, and an artistic citizen. And I would imagine that now, as we start the process, hopefully, fingers crossed, of coming back to being in person again, that the projects that you have done since March will inform what you do going forward forevermore.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, I think the exciting thing is I've been teaching online lessons for, I don't know, at least 15 years. And now the barrier has been lowered forever. Like now everyone's okay with it. Before, people were very against online lessons. And so the way I explained it was that you're never going to have an online lesson if you're in the same city as your teacher, while you are now with the quarantine. But before that, it's not fair to compare an online lesson to a live in-person lesson. You would always take the in-person lesson. But online, you can do 80% of what you can do in a live in-person lesson, and you can spend years on that 80% rhythm, style, all the sound production, how to learn, how to practice performing, all these other things. So online lessons, you're not comparing them to live lessons. Live lessons are better. You're comparing them to no lesson, where you have to pay for travel and all that time investment that's now got edited, trimmed off the edges, where you can walk up to your camera and be talking to someone in Berlin and learning from them. So there's a lot more people online than ever, and sharing learning and sharing performance projects. And it's been an exciting time with Canadian Brass as well. We've done a bunch of online recording. I recorded 2 new charts yesterday, just the horn lines, and we're putting them together in different creative ways. Yeah, it's been a big learning curve, bigger for us older guys in the band. Chuck and I have been getting a lot of help with how to set up mics and do all these things. Yeah.
I was going to ask, you're obviously a member of the Canadian Brass, and what has these last few months meant for you guys in terms of projects and still engaging with your worldwide community?
Yeah, it's been fantastic in trying to evolve what we offer of value, to people and to inspire and motivate. We started with an online show, all 5 of us every week, Ask Anything on I don't know, Fridays on Facebook. And then we kind of each had our own kind of ideas of guests. So we each started our own show, and there was a trumpet hang, and mine was musician mindset. And I've continued doing it. It's on Fridays now, 12:30 Eastern time, on the Canadian Brass Facebook page. And then Chuck's doing tuba chats. So that's one of the ways we really started to reach out and have different types of performers on. I try and do a horn player one week and then a non-horn player, trying to also have it be non-musician, come in and talk about the mental game of excellence and training and learning and how to deal with failure and fear. All those fun things.
Well, I think we should dive into that, because the reason why I stumbled upon your wonderful conversation with your colleague at Indiana University, and I had of course heard of him throughout the years, being a former horn player and just being a musician. One knows him well, but I was so inspired by that conversation.
Yeah, me too.
And you too. I could tell. And
it was Richard Sheffinoff was the person.
Exactly.
He builds horns and teaches with me, and he's wonderful.
But what I loved, and I think this is maybe not to put words into your mouth or into your philosophy, but this endless curiosity for what he does is infectious. And maybe that's something you can't teach, but it's something certainly you can model. And I think this sort of idea of the mind game of your class. I think I would assume having him around as a colleague has been just nothing but a sponge from his inspiration and his curiosity.
Yeah, and in all areas, it's just a beautiful Renaissance man with a sweet, tender heart, and he starts every sentence with okay, it's just and if you call him and he answers, it just watch this. He's going to pretend like he called me, and he's just going to go off. So yeah, a twig on the mighty brook of life going along. And
But tell us about how you. I think so many performers have their own sort of a path in terms of the mental games, not game, that's not quite the right word, but the mental sort of path one must take to take auditions, to play a recital, to approach a solo in an orchestral piece, and to just be in that mindset. Tell us about your philosophy, how that came about, how you codified it, because while so many of us have our own personal journey with that, it's another thing to sit it, put it to paper, create a website, create a whole teaching philosophy around it, which you've done.
I just tell myself, don't run. And if I succeed at that, then it's, don't mess up. And so that had me quit horn when I was in high school.
Really?
Yeah. My method is based in having lots of fear. And I love the saying, it's difficult to teach that which you have not had to learn. So I've had to learn these. And the first thing I learned is that fear is a choice. I'm choosing to get nervous. The audience doesn't happen to me. So it's really about taking responsibility, not grief or guilt, but responsibility for how I feel. The Eleanor Roosevelt quote, "No one can make me feel anything without my consent." And why can I walk into an empty room and be fine? And I walk into that same room with someone standing there and I change my body, I freak out. That's a choice. And if that person is a 5-year-old, I choose to be calm. If it's my teacher, I choose to freak out. All these external things that I can't affect, I believe that I'm somehow figure out how to have them affect me. And then, but fear isn't the problem. It's the negative results from the fear, because fear helps me practice before the performance. It gets me off the couch. So it's also that having an emotional intelligence enough to look at fear and go, okay, what is this emotion? What kind of signal is it? Where's my work lie?
So, okay, but where was that? When did you start having these moments of self-evaluation or self-awareness? It's one thing to quit something when you're in high school. It's another thing to recognize that and use that to grow. So when did that start happening for you?
Yeah. Good question. I think we all are doing that to different levels. And I succeeded early on in audition winning. I won my first audition in my 3rd year of school. So I was out, and then I went an audition back where I was going to school in Montreal, the Montreal Symphony, and I was teaching at the university. I left teaching people that were in my class, and it was just great to talk to them about how I did it. They were more interested then because I had succeeded. But the fear, I think, was way back in my childhood with playing with my cousins and my older sisters, and I was pretty shy. I had a really good arm, and I remember my big older cousin stood up from his fort and just went, "Okay, stop!" But I had already let go of the snowball, and it hit him right in the face. and I was sent home crying and I'm bad. It was a great shock. And from then, I liked girls, but I couldn't talk to them. I just would change. I would, get into this like me, and that's just really. I got enough of that not working. Another story I remember is basketball. I quit horn a lot to play basketball, and to try and play basketball. And I remember the first game, I drew the foul, and I was okay. And I could shoot free throws all day on the farm. Swish, swish. Got to the line and stood cool because Laura Kalinowski was watching, and I was like, okay, I bounced the ball twice and shot, and the ball barely made it halfway to the hoop. My arm was all just the same ball, same court, everything. So it has to be interesting. And I think early on I had to find my own responsibility in it. So I wasn't a victim. I wasn't telling myself that they made me nervous, but I chose to get nervous. It might be because of the audience, but the audience doesn't make me nervous. It helps me choose to be nervous. And now how can I choose better? And then that's been a world of building fear replacements and ways of making that active replacing to be one word thoughts so they can come to me quickly in the throes of performance. And then to have a repertoire or arsenal of different fear replacements when one stops working to go to another one.
Mm-hmm. I'm curious, was this, so it was first a mechanism that you developed for your own education, for your own development?
And still do. I'm still working on it. Yeah.
Sure. And then at what point did you feel that you could then share that information?
I don't know if it was ever that I could, it was more that I was able to. Also the other thing, I try to see problems as opportunities. It's either a success or a lesson. I know these are all short quips, but they help me in the moment choose well enough times. And I started talking to my friends about it a bit. And it was just the practice walking into the room and performing. So I was taking people through that. This is where I met my wife as well, here at Music Academy of the West in Santa Barbara. Canadian Brass was teaching there for quite a few summers. I did 3 or 4 summers here, and that's when they had me do, I think, my first Fearless Performance class. And a bunch of people came, and I was like, okay. And then a bunch of people talked to me afterwards about it. And I also remember another moment. This man named Brendan Burchard is a high performance person that I study, and one thing he said changed my teaching forever, and it was most people don't connect more to your story of struggle than your story of success. So at first I was trying, I did this and I got this, so what, you should do this, and they were like, okay, sure, it makes sense, but I wouldn't see it as successful as when I've had this problem, I've done this, and that, I think my students connect a lot more to that. So it's being vulnerable and sharing. I have a hesitation in my note. I can't start notes. I had to get all these creative ways of starting. That was happening again this Christmas. So I've broken everything down and studied fundamentals again. I'm getting a shake in my sound and all these. And I just, okay, Jeff, these are signals to do. And on day 52 in a row of practicing now, like 2 or 3 hours a day. And I'm getting there. It's exciting. Yeah.
So
do I keep avoiding your questions? Sorry.
No. You are addressing them just as I thought you would, which is great. Let's play that first video you sent. I want to focus on this. You have such an interesting career because so many, and I'm sure you were this way, playing as being a horn player, one's path is really just one path, really. You're gonna either teach, or if you're a music ed major, of course, you'll be a teacher, whatever, or you're gonna join an orchestra. But there is also this wonderful path that very few people can take, which is what you've done as well, which is to play in a wonderful ensemble, chamber ensemble, and you happen to be playing in a member of the Canadian Brass. So let's play. Do you want to lead? We can talk about it after. So why don't we just watch it? Do you still pinch yourself that, hey, you're the horn player of the Canadian brass?
No, I don't pinch myself. So it continues. Yeah, it's especially, and I think also being a Canadian too. It's like I was out of my mind excited when I met one of them.
When did you first join Canadian brass?
In 2000.
Right. And then we also met the same, I think it was the same summer that you guys met,
Right.
Summer 2003. And I have to say, I had not ever met the Canadian brass live. I had seen the Canadian brass before you joined, about 10 years before that. And, I was so in awe of them. And I was in awe of you guys. And I'm trying to remember, I actually conducted something that you guys I can't remember what that piece was. It was you guys were playing, it was like for a wind ensemble, or I can't.
Was it Manhattan Music by Tovey?
Yes, thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
But I was pinching myself. I was like, I can't believe I'm doing this concert with the Canadian brass. Yeah. But one of the things that I'll never forget was the sense of playfulness that you all had. And I would imagine that how else are you going to have this close relationship and travel the world without this sense of playfulness?
No, it's very serious. There's no room for jokes or humor, or I think we all ascribe to that you don't have to be serious to take something seriously, and we take it very serious. And the groups, we're in our 50th year now, and that was one of the things forever, was that the music could never be the joke. So it was everything around that we could just put some personality into and share and connect to the audience. They were one of the first chamber groups to speak to the audience, and that music's great, but the audience wants to learn who we are and personalities and all the different ways of connecting.
Tell for our people who are perhaps students beginning their path of becoming a musician, tell us a little bit what the differences are of playing in an ensemble, a chamber ensemble like the Canadian brass, as opposed to playing in an orchestra. You've done both extensively. I'm sure there are a lot of similarities, of course, but there must be some differences that you can share with us.
Sure. I think the quintet or small chamber group is very intimate, and we do about 100 shows a year. So I left the first time to get married. That's why when I left the group, and the next time we were going to have a child. But before that, we've spent a lot of time together, and so this quarantine time has been great for us to reconnect with our wives and families. So we know each other inside out, and we know the music really inside out. We do maybe 3 different programs a year, and then the big Christmas program, one-nighters all of December. So we know the music really, really, really well. I recommend knowing your orchestral music really, really well as well. But when you're one of 5, one difference is that your part just it contributes more. You have more influence over the final product because you're 20% of the concert. When you're one of 100, you're 1%, regardless of the ideas that the composers have written for you. But in 93, I got my first job in the Winnipeg Symphony, 4th horn 1 year, and 1-year contract. And then the next year, there's another 1-year contract for 4th horn in the Montreal Symphony. So I got to play in the Montreal Symphony when I was 24, and went to Japan and Carnegie Hall and all this crazy stuff. And that's one big chamber group. Everyone watches the concertmaster, and especially with the way Dutoit conducts as well. I remember the first time he gave a big downbeat, and I waited for forever, and finally went, okay. I played, and I was still the first early person, and they all kind of went, new guy, nice. Born early? What the? So it's that feel of chamber music, and I think a side note on Dutoit too, like he was amazing. And I was young, so I was a little bit fearless and a lot clueless. So I was just, eyes locked in, and I just thought he was never looking at me. But he would give you a don't mess up cue a lot. And
Mhm.
yet, when he wasn't there, I noticed early on, even in my earlier, more immature ears, that the orchestra played better when he was there, out of fear, out of good fear, but one common foe. And I think that's going away for the most part with Yannick and you and your conductors, with that we work together on the music. I think is a much better approach, but the other ways were effective as well.
But there is something to be said up for that. I mean, being music director is one thing, and of course, he was a music director in an era at the end of an era that you've just mentioned, where fear played a prominent role. But I have to say, he is one of the most, in terms of guest conductors. When I was with the San Francisco Symphony, I could count on one hand the conductors that could come in and actually make the San Francisco Symphony sound better than they normally do. And he was one of those conductors.
Yeah, awesome.
And what the one thing that I will always try to emulate is his idea of listening to the chords that are actually being played, and how you fit into that chord, and how you fit into that chord creates the balance of the orchestra. And this is, for all the conductors that are out there watching this, and who I've talked to in the past, if there is one thing that you can learn from him, that is key. It changes an orchestra sound within seconds.
Yeah. And Montreal, those recordings and that orchestra, super unique sound, that had such an incredible balance. The brass section, I think, that was the one thing super, super clear to me. The brass section never sat on things and wailed. He would, the maestro and everyone would go up and down, and then we'd peak, but come back down, and then go up to another peak, come down. I grew up with opera singer parents as well on the pig farm in Canada, and they taught me, that, and my wife's an opera singer as well, that every note you play should either be going towards something or away from something. So never this assault. Same with Canadian brass. We're holding an arsenal with these, modern day brass instruments, but it's pretty unneeded. Though it's also super effective. I've done a bunch of playing with the Chicago Symphony in front of Charlie Vernon, Mahler 6 and Heldenleben and things, and Gene Picorni, and next to Dale Clevenger, it's an incredible sound as well. I'll take both.
You mentioned something I wanted to touch upon is, and you mentioned this in what you've written about as well, is that, and you're obviously not the first instrumentalist to say this, but it's really hit home for you, and it should hit home for everyone, really, that we're all, as instrumentalists, we're all trying to recreate what is natural in the human voice, and what you hear, how they produce a sound, like, as you say, how they naturally grow towards a middle of the phrase, and come away from that. It's something that we have to learn how to do, because we don't have words. We're not. We don't have the middle of the phrase because of amore is where we're going towards. We have to make up that language, in other words. And I think it's so crucial that to be obsessed as instrumentalists, obsessed with the human voice.
Right. Yeah, and that phrasing and the way of moving sound, I talk to my students a lot, and I even say in lessons, because Dale Clevenger is now living around the corner from me and teaching at IU as well. And but I would say in lessons at times, I'd say, okay, don't tell Dale, but try less air. There's so much muscling and pushing of air. And I use the example of singers. Like, singers don't push air to get louder. They don't go, balance. Okay, now make that ratio louder. And I think it's a much bigger form of moving sound than blowing the walls down and all this other.
Your philosophy of approaching how one makes music. You were given the opportunity to speak at a TEDx conference. What we're going to now watch a clip from your talk. What what were you trying to convey to that audience? When you were asked to do this, what did you, obviously you have a whole system of teaching, but in that 10 or 15 minutes, what did you want to convey in that talk?
What was I thinking of conveying during it or before when I was performing? Those were very different. And when I was asked, I was like, hey, I have a year or 6 months. Yeah, great. I'll do it. But I remember I wanted to convey that fear is a choice and we can choose better. It's the simple thing, and how we can learn to get to know ourselves and know that when we perform, we're sharing, and that we're sharing who we are either way in every moment. And that's dictated by what we choose. Do we choose to avoid mistakes, and that's our definition of success? Or is it sharing something we love or something that we have interest in? Might be totally wrong. You tell me what your thoughts are. Oh, I was playing in the wrong key. Okay, now I know. I won't do that again. But performance is this thing through which we get to share ourselves in whatever the present state of it is. And for the TED Talk, there were a bunch of things. My first is 10 minutes, I think. And my first trial run was 42 minutes, I think. Okay. So then I learned the concept of killing your darlings, right? Get rid of a lot of your favorite ideas. And about 3 days before it happened, I found out that we didn't have a teleprompter. So I was in the last 3 days memorizing. And I had pictures of all the slides, and then my wife would mix them up into different order, or I'd be on the elliptical, just pulling out one slide and go, okay, that's what I say for that slide, like in out of order, and just like crazy memorizing. And if you're going to play any of the TED Talk, I want anybody watching that you can watch my mouth go desert dry. Like I'm so nervous. I walk out and do a magic trick and play my horn. It's a little bit of Siegfried's Call, and I had a clicker. I was set up to be, and I'm already a mess, just, walking. So, but it went well. It was, yeah.
Let's watch it.
We can choose better. Yeah.
Let's watch it.
Perform as often as possible. Get out there and perform. Stop waiting for that perfect time where your content is bulletproof, your network is big enough, or you've lost those last 10 pounds. Just get out there now. If I would have waited till I was ready to win my first audition in order for me to do my first audition, I'd still be waiting to do my first audition. So I used to work really hard at getting what I wanted, and I didn't usually get what I wanted. So looking back, it wasn't until I changed my reasons why I was doing something from getting to sharing. I used to do something to get a job, or impress someone, or make a sale, and me, more is more, this way. So it wasn't until I shifted to sharing and started doing things for better reasons, like sharing things with an appreciative audience, or sharing beautiful music, or making a new friend, or sharing information with an eager student. So just get out there and share your stuff. So when you prepare to perform, make it about you, and make it about getting really good at what you do. But once you enter into your performance, get over yourself. Instead of bringing the energy to you, spin it outwardly and make it a great gift, a fearless gift of sharing something that matters to you. There's a great movie, Monty Python, The Life of Brian, and the emperor comes out and says, "You are all individuals." And the one guy in the back goes, "I'm not." You are all individuals. And you all have something to share, and we need you to share it. So it's not easy all the time, but there's nothing more important. Don't make the mistake of seeing other people share and think it's easy for them. But right now, we need to suck it up and believe in ourselves and help each other believe in them, themselves, and just share our stuff. My last 30 seconds, I want you to take a look at my son. And he hasn't even done anything. He's just sitting there. He is the most fearless performer I know. And he's not very good at performing many things. But do we question his worth in performance? When he does something, we see it as being full of greatness. And he may not be hireable right now, but that's what tomorrow is for. He can get better. But he's a fearless performer because he doesn't doubt himself in performance. He doesn't question his own self-worth. So get to be an expert at how you do things and what you do, but let's put some more energy into why we do it and evolve why we do it so that we can all share in a lot more fearless performance in the world, and do it to respect our past, do it for our future, do it for our children, do it for the child in you, and do it for no reason at all but to share. Thank you.
They liked you.
There's a lot of Venmo. Yeah.
What you bring up such salient points, which is, and I've fallen victim to this so often, is that you just have to try. You have to. For the longest time, perfect example. I could not bring myself to conduct Brahms' Third Symphony. I conducted the other three symphonies of the four many times over the course of. So lucky to have conducted these other symphonies, but I had this mental hang-up about the Third Symphony, and that I would never be able to do exactly what I wanted to do with it. And finally, my concertmaster of one of my orchestras said, "You just have to dive in and go for it. It may not be exactly how you want it to be, but it has to be a first time. You have to give it a shot." And what's so odd was that it ended up, and this is very, I say this very rarely, it ended up being better than I thought it would be. It's usually far worse. But you're so right that for young performers, not trying a piece because they think they can't play it, or not even diving in, you're never gonna do it. It's never going to happen unless you try it, like you said.
Yeah. The waiting and the perfectionism and all those mistakes. And we all have to make those mistakes, but it's how often we make that mistake too. Do we learn like that? It makes sense that nothing's going to be perfect. I know. But anyway, I'm still scared. Like, it's just, there's no, I love telling people, like, when they're usually it's talking about a friend and they did something, and they just say, "I just don't get it." And I like saying, actually, you do get it. It doesn't make sense, but you get it. Let's go to the next topic. Like, so it's not like those, I don't know. I just get scared, and people don't look any deeper than that. With my students a lot, I say often, I ask them a question to inspire some learning, and they give an answer that's right, but super general, so that it's definitely right. And I say, "Yep, you're right. Get more specific. Get more specific." And I think it's the same for performance. Like, look into why we get scared and why we're walking out there. Are we walking out there to avoid mistakes? Because that's impossible. But is it to share enough of Brahms 3 that you love about it, with your that act of building the thing and then sharing it and then hearing after how you did and how it did, or whatever. I have all these things I tell myself backstage. I have a sheet of paper. You can't control perception. You can only control presentation. Do you know what time is it? It's now. Play well, or all these different ways of doing it. I was thinking too. Go ahead. You're going to talk on that.
Well, I was just going to touch upon one other thing that we often so easily forget, is that audience that is there, they want to be inspired. They want to keep that smile on their face. They want to be a part of something that they don't get to be a part of in their normal lives. And so they're there for all positive reasons. And when you walk on stage, there's nothing but positivity that you can glean from them, right?
Yeah.
And
unless we're worried about ourselves, then we're not letting it in. We're worried. We're staying safe.
You were going to say?
No, we're staying safe. Like that.
Yeah.
If that's coming to me, but I'm too worried about the high note or what's coming up after. My partner in these online courses, Katie Webb, found from a book she was reading the other day that it wasn't one of the explorers got to an island or got to a new world, and then they burned the boats. Like, there was just, we're going to figure it out. So that's one of our things, burn the boats. Like, let's do that.
That's a great way of looking at it. That's for sure. Yeah. Going back to this audience perception and just the joy that an audience has, it reminds me of when, and again, I'm not so good with years, but about 8 years ago or so, you came down to South America with me to Chile to this wonderful city and orchestra in Concepcion, Chile, and you performed Richard Strauss's second horn concerto. And I know you get to experience this a lot with the Canadian Brass. You get to travel the world and you get to meet audiences from all sorts of backgrounds and ethnicities. But I remember the time, the first incredible job, of course, with the concerto itself, but it was the amount of love that is shared with. We're basically one step above stranger, really, but it's because we are sharing something so unique, so beautiful, and an art form. It's almost like we're immediately accepted like family.
Yeah. Yeah, and we're just vessels of these amazing messages. We get to add our little style choices to them. Yeah, yeah. What is it? Is it Nietzsche who said the ego disappears when the great art appears when the ego disappears? I guess that probably wasn't Nietzsche. Yeah, we get to lose ourselves in this other greater thing. Another thing we're working on with these online courses and with Katie Webb is this the third thing, and it's such an amazing concept. It's going to be our next course, and all these things where and it came from another person I spent a lot of time talking with. He lives near me, and he teaches at the high school nearby, and he's just one of my also biggest mentors. And if I go to a party, this is the way he explained it. If I go to a party and I'm talking and I meet someone else, I'm the first thing. And I say, I teach music at IU. What's your name? Oh, and that second person says, I teach philosophy at Notre Dame or whatever. So that's the second thing. And then, but if something's, if they say, well, we're both into IU basketball or something. Wow. Okay. And then they talk about this thing, that's when the third thing appears. And it's the thing greater than the two people, and it takes us out of the first and second things. And in music, it's that same shared. That's why I call performance sharing. That's the best word I can come up with, because it includes the audience. Communicating is kind of a one way. I'm going to tell you, I'm going to communicate. But that shared connection too. But the third thing is such a big. We're finding it everywhere now. What would you think a third thing might be when you're in your life, you've experienced?
Well, going back to my experience in Chile, that relationship started because of another conductor who I went to Indiana University with. Actually, he had won a conducting competition in Mexico and was invited because of this competition to conduct in Concepcion. And while he was there, the next conductor that was supposed to come, they were supposed to conduct a production of Madame Butterfly, and he pulled whoever this conductor was, pulled off at the last minute. Tomas could not conduct it, and so Tomas called me in San Francisco and said, "Hey, what are you doing in a month? Do you know Madame Butterfly?" And at the time, I was working in San Francisco Opera, and I said, "Yeah, sure, I'd love to." But this third thing is that when I got there, I was so nervous because I had never been to a country where they didn't. Tomas said, "Listen, most of the people in the orchestra don't speak English. They say they do, but they don't really. Just so you know that they'll nod their head like they understand." And so he gave me a whole list, like, okay, woodwinds or maderas, and cuerdas or strings, and like I started memorizing all the numbers. But then when I got there, what the third thing is why I brought this up was actually, it was this sense of community. It was a sense of, yes, we're all there to make music, but we're all still we're here because we love. And it's this, the other things around that third thing. We had I thought it was going to be about the language and about making sure that I knew music, but it wasn't. It was about just being present and having a love for something.
And that's all anyone really wants, is that we bring all of who we are in that moment. I can learn more language the next day, but I'm going to do what I can, and same with more notes, more rhythms, all that stuff, more pisco sours, all
We made a good dent in our more pisco sour initiative.
Yeah. That was an amazing trip. And there's an encore. I should have actually sent that. There's an encore. I play this piece after the Strauss 2 that we did. And it's called Happy Blues. And
Yes.
a video of this online. I didn't send it, did I? No, we're not.
No,
today.
You didn't.
But and I do a magic trick, and it's a blue light appear out of nowhere, and it's a 1 minute thing if you can bring it up for a concert. But the thing about it is the timpanist behind me, is I do something and I change something, I do something unexpected, and you can see on his face he goes, when he looks around. It's really, really fun. Happy Blues, it's called.
Happy Blues. I don't see it here.
Happy Blues by Nega, N-A-G-A. Jeff Nelsen, Happy Blues.
Jeff Nelsen, Happy Blues. I'm looking.
Oh, she got it.
She got it. Okay, good. That's what
you want to throw it on?
I didn't find it. Maybe Tina is looking for it.
Put it in the chat.
Yeah, we'll put it in the chat later.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So this while we're looking for this, let's play this next video. What's this performance that you're sharing? This third performance that you sent?
Right. This one, I think I'm probably playing horn, and I have no idea. What is it?
Let's put it up. Let's put it up, and I can look for the Happy Blues while we're playing this video. Who knew that an abandoned quarry could have such great acoustics?
It was beautiful sounds, and it was, I think, early November. So
Where was that?
amazing. Alora Gorge, just north of Toronto.
Wow.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. Unbelievable.
Yeah, and piece was by Michael Kamen, who wrote it for us, and he did Robin Hood's movie soundtrack, all the Die Hards, all the Lethal Weapons, Mr. Holland's Opus, all these wonderful storytelling pieces of music. So we really love that piece.
Have you worked much with film composers otherwise? Because I find that it's there's such an amazing amount of talent that we rarely get a chance to work with, unless of course you live in Los Angeles, you record soundtracks, et cetera, and they are now, so many of them feel, they have their own universe, right? And I always feel like it's sort of untapped talent there.
Yeah, and luckily, or fortunately for us, they're being tapped for storytelling operas that are movies. Those movie soundtracks are amazing. I just did an online concert. We recorded our different pieces, and it was for the Los Angeles Motion Picture Composers Association. I can't remember. Angel Velez was the creator, I think, and one of the directors of this project. And I did a piece written by Ryan Beard, I think, for solo horn, and we each did it, and they aired it one day. So there's some beautiful music. Something for my sister did the bassoon piece as well, and then I did a piece for 7 instrumentalists, including Arturo Sandoval.
Whoa.
Yeah, and the concertmaster of the LA Phil, and all these different people, and then I got in touch with him a week later, and we've had a couple horn lessons. I'm his French horn teacher now.
Oh, that's right. He plays French horn.
He plays beautifully too. It's really neat. Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah. Whenever I think of that, that's when another don't pinch myself. He's amazing.
He's from that generation of Cuban artists that are such all around, all encompassing musicians. They can do it all.
Yeah. Yeah. He puts out a recording every day, I think, on Facebook. Him playing piano, drums, trumpet, flugelhorn, French horn, just prolific, like overwhelmingly. It's just he lives music. Yeah.
So we did find the video, but I want to talk a little bit about. Tell us a little bit how you got involved with magic, and it's not, a lot of people do magic tricks here, but you've become an aficionado. You really are a part of that wonderful world. How did that start?
I think it started when we went to California from Alberta, Canada, when I was 10, and my cousin did a magic show, and I was his assistant. And then the next day we were in Disneyland, and I went to the Houdini's magic store and got a few tricks. And so I was addicted ever since. I think I quit when I became a grown up, when I was cool. And then I was on a Broadway show tour, and I went to get those birthday candles in Philadelphia. I remember which city we were in. Get the candles that when you blow out, they relight all the time. Right. And then 2 hours and $200 later, I was neck deep back into magic. And then on that same tour, we went to LA, and I was standing in the magic store there, and I had my tour jacket on, and it was Andrew Lloyd Webber's Music of the Night. And the person in the magic store had seen the show the night before at the Pantages, and he's like, "Oh, great show!" I said, "Thanks." He said, "So are you going to go to the Magic Castle?" And I was, "The what?" And he told me all about this magic castle that's up on the hill in Hollywood Hills. You have to be a member to get in, or know a member. And so he took me every other night. And you had to have a suit and tie, and it's this old house. You go in, you give them your name, and they say, "Okay, go ahead, just say the magic word." And you go up to the bookcase, and you say, "Open sesame." And the little eyes on the owl statue go, and the bookcase opens, and that's the beginning of your night. And you go in, and it's the greatest magicians in the world are doing close-up magic, mentalism magic, and small set things, and then the big Palace of Mystery where they cut people in half, and there's shows going on all over this. When I was the International Horn Society, I was president for a couple of years, and we had our event in LA one year, and I took 50 of the guest artists all up to the Magic Castle, a special event. Sarah Willis and all these people, yeah, and Dale and his wife came, and it's such a fun. And I just feel like I'm 12 years old again. So I got to audition, and now I'm a magician member of this Magic Castle. So if you want to go again, I can get you in.
I was just going to sheepishly ask you the next time we're both in Los Angeles.
Yeah.
Can you please take me?
Absolutely, yeah.
So this piece we're going to play now, this is an encore piece that you do, and you incorporate a wonderful trick with this little ball that lights up. So let's take let's watch it.
That's you just walking off.
Oh man, Jeff, it's so wonderful to chat with you. It's great to catch up. I'm so happy we've been able to talk about. I've had these questions for years now, and we get to do it in front of whoever wants to watch on Facebook. We'll figure.
Thanks for doing this. This is important stuff. Talking about it.
It is. Thank you for sharing all that you've done. These in your career and your the fact that you share this wonderful journey in such an engaging and positive way is really inspiring. So thank you.
Thank you very much. It's amazing working with you too. As always, great to see you again.
And it's good to know you're not too far. We're I'm in San Francisco, you're in Santa Barbara, so who knows? We'll get to see each other in person. Not too far into the future.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you, everyone, for joining us this week on MusicWise. Thank you, Jeff Nelsen, and we'll see you soon.
Bye.